What's up, everyone? This is Angelo coming at you with episode 228 of Spinning Thoughts. This is an exciting one because our Canadian contributor Dan Boyer got to sit down with one of my favorite bands, A Will Away. Dan just recently attended No Passage Fest. It was March the 19th in Hamilton, Ontario. 13 bands, I think, were on this bill. Like Pacific had their album release for Control My Sanity. The album had just dropped at the beginning of December 2021. A Will Away, Judgment, Falsifier, Nightwell, Exalt. There were so many bands, quality bands on this fest. And to be honest, it was really cool to have Dan get back out there and interview a band in person. It's been a few years, thank you, COVID, since Dan has gone out and done this. And I know how much it means to him to go out and be at shows and to also interview and talk to bands while he's out there. And I love listening to his interviews. I know you all do. So it's a good time to be here in the music world as things are opening back up and shows are happening, tours, fests. You know, this kind of content is going to continue to come your way. So here in episode 228, Dan talks to A Will Away, and we had the band on the podcast years ago. I got to talk to the band, and it was one of my favorite episodes because if my memory serves me correctly, I can't remember if it was recorded in the podcast episode or if it was outside of it. I think it's on the episode, whatever number it is. Go back and look for us on Spotify or wherever. But I was talking to the band. I think they were on tour with Trophy Eyes, and a fire alarm was going off in the background while we were taping and recording. And the band just kept talking, and I was like, do you guys need to leave? Like, should you exit this building if there's a fire alarm? And I think they were like, no, we're good. So I love this band. I love all of the music that they put out. They've really seemed to be evolving and exploring their musical creativity. I love when bands do that. And A Will Away is just a prime example of a band that doesn't stop pushing the envelope forward for what it is that they're trying to do and create. So exciting to have A Will Away here on the podcast. Without any further delay, it is very exciting to welcome back A Will Away and Dan's conversation with them from No Passage Fest.
Hello, Dan Boyer, Canadian contributor for Spinning Thoughts, and I'm here with A Will Away. What is going on, guys?
Hey,
what's going on?
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely, it's good to see you guys. We're here at No Passage Fest in Hamilton, Ontario, and you guys are the main support or co-headline for this festival that's been put on by Mr. Joe Day, who was recently featured on one of our episodes of Spinning Thoughts. And so, A Will Away, you guys drove overnight from Connecticut.
I did. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So your home scene is Connecticut, and talk to me about that, because Connecticut's like a really small state, right? So do you guys just kind of get lumped in with upstate New York, or how far is it from Jersey? Do you get it?
A couple hours. Yeah, it's a couple hours away. So we definitely get lumped in just kind of across the board on tri-state, but I will say that Connecticut is a weird market. It is a weird market. Some nights you have the best show you could ever hope for, and some nights you have people who are just crossing their arms and judging you. And
It's always been weird.
Connecticut's always been weird.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. No matter the genre.
I mean, when we grew up, it was more of a hardcore scene.
It died out though,
yeah.
a little
Especially
bit.
When we were in high
It
school.
died out for a while, and that shit made a comeback to a small extent. But yeah, Connecticut's kind of weird. New Jersey for many years in the beginning of our careers, what people considered our home state.
Yeah, for a long time people thought we were from New Jersey, and I actually think that that kind of speaks to it, where we found that just the Connecticut scene is very small, doesn't have a ton of support from the industry whatsoever, and so that was sort of the thing that, like, it was the onus that got us on the road in the first place was, okay, we can only do so much if we keep playing in Connecticut exclusively, right? So you start going, you start traveling to other places, trading shows with guys in, like, sort of like the DIY capacity, and we found a very, very happy home in both New Jersey and, like, the overall tri-state area.
Right, and so people thinking you're from New Jersey, but being from Connecticut, and you said there was a bit of a hardcore scene there at one point when you guys were coming up. So did A Will Away evolve then from hardcore, or have you just always kind of been
but not from hardcore.
I mean, we like hardcore.
We do. But it wasn't what we were playing. So where we were at the time, and this was like 11 years ago, it was Warped Tour was everything, pop punk was everything, and even though we had like a lot of people with a lot of very like varied talents, we very much shoehorned ourselves into what was acceptable in that scene at the moment. And thankfully to positive effect, you know. But I know that like over the course of time, we sort of always knew that we wanted to sort of branch out into different sounds, but we just knew at the moment that like the niche was there. You know, if you're a group of dudes trying to start a band in Connecticut and you're trying to like do any sort of touring, at that time you had like two options, and it was either hardcore or straight up pop punk.
Yeah, absolutely, and that is probably why people thought you were from New Jersey or like maybe Long Island or something like that, right?
We got a lot of the Long Island too, like that New York area thing.
Right. So you start the band 11 years ago, and talk about the beginnings of the band. Is it just like, you know, we're like a bunch of dudes in high school that like Warped Tour and want to be in a band?
Yeah, literally. I mean, dude, we were a literal group of friends who grew up in a very, very small area. We all had sort of like different relationships to each other over the years, and we really like, it is very much the group of random hometown dudes grinding it out, playing shows with people just for the fun of it for ourselves. And there was a moment at which we were like, oh, people are liking what we are doing. We should probably keep doing that. There was never this like mass deliberate intention of like, oh, we're going to be a touring band and this is going to be awesome. It was just, we're going to play music, we're going to have fun. And it just kind of ran away with itself, like completely. And now we're here 10 years later, and I don't know what the fuck we're doing.
and that's awesome. So what were the signs that A Will Away was becoming a bit bigger than your average like local band?
There were a couple of things.
Cold weather.
Yeah, like we put out some EPs that people really dug. But more importantly, like at the time we were playing like DIY shows, house shows. We knew basically when we were like packing out basements that like, okay, there's a market for whatever it is that we're doing. I don't think any of us knew why there was a market for what we were doing. You know what I mean?
We just wanted to do it because none of us wanted to go to college.
That was a lot of it too, man. Yeah, like it was at a certain point, and I think this is probably true for every dude who's like 17 to 19 years old. Like it feels like if you hit it at the right time, it's like a get out of life free card. You know?
True.
Of course, that is not how it works.
Yeah, then you actually get into it.
Yeah, but you really want it to be that. And, like, you hold on to that feeling for a long time. And I think the other signs for us were when we started touring and getting a really good response. Like, it was, okay, we're just going to keep rolling.
Yeah, because you've toured with quite a number of different acts over the years. I'm trying to remember. I want to say you guys were out with Microwave when COVID hit.
We were very much out with Microwave, having a fucking ball, if I might say so. Like, we were having such a good time on that tour. But we, throughout the course of the tour, always had the inklings of like, we're passing through Florida and everybody's like COVID, and we're like, we don't really know what that is, right? And we're passing through Texas and it's like COVID, and we don't really know what that is. And by the time we get to California, people would kind of figure it out like, oh, this is actually kind of a big deal. And we started having conversations both like amongst ourselves as well as with the guys in the other bands as to whether or not it was like unethical to keep asking people to come to shows.
Yeah, you don't want to endanger people.
Right. And I think that as soon as like we all collectively realized that, it was like, okay, there's no other option but to pull the plug. And so we drove home from not like quite the West Coast, but like somewhere slightly in between.
Nebraska was the last show.
Yeah, so there you go. It was a long drive home, and our feeling was very much like, I mean, at the time we were being told, it's going to be a couple weeks. Like, don't worry about it. Go home, take a couple weeks off.
Flatten the curve.
Yep, flatten the curve. We're gonna reschedule all the tickets and everything's going to be fine. And I think that we all left earnestly thinking that was going to be the case. And it wasn't. And here we are several years later, and these are, like, yesterday and today are the first shows that we've played in years.
That's what I had thought, that this is your first time back on the road. Just like this is my first interview with a band in just over 2 years.
It's like the time just vanished, you know? It's like you had no concept of it.
And what were the indications to you guys that it was okay, it was safe to start getting back on the road?
Obviously, vaccines are a huge portion of it. We have been watching not only the numbers kind of fluctuating over the course of the last couple of years, but we've also been watching other bands guinea pig the process. One of the things for us is we've been doing this for long enough that we don't want to take unnecessary risk, especially because we understand the financial consequences of what happens when you do that.
You'll let someone else do that.
Yeah. So we're going to let them guinea pig it for a little while. And what we found is there were even early attempts, like in like the latter half of last year, where we tried to book a couple of shows and just COVID messed it up. So rather than force our hand, we decided to sort of sit and wait, and I'm glad we did, because since we've been out so far, things are really nice.
Yeah, it kind of feels like it, maybe not only for you guys, for a lot of bands, but maybe it was a bit of an unplanned hiatus.
Yeah, completely. Mm-hmm. There was a bit of a planned hiatus for us in the sense that we knew that we had to write another record. We knew that, the clock was ticking on our ability to sort of like maintain where we were versus having to take time off the road. And I think that like where we ended up with it is, when we were driving home from the Microwave tour, one of the things that we were talking about was like, it's going to be fine. We're going to just be able to hang out in our studio. So we have a studio down where we live, and we're going to be able to write, and we're going to be able to do whatever we want. The day after we got home, the building manager comes in and he goes, yeah, so the state just said you guys have to leave for like an indefinite amount of time. And so it ended up just being a process of like us doing the same thing everybody else was doing, self-isolating, trying to keep your bubble really small, trying to work on important things with zero vision of where the light at the end of the tunnel looks like, you know?
Yeah, we still are there in some respects. It is hard to forward plan, and yet you did just drop a new release recently.
Yes.
Called Stew. And talk to me about that and about that process. You've come on board with Rude Records. Are they based in the UK?
They're based in Italy, although they do a lot of distribution from the UK, which makes a ton of sense.
I had a feeling it was in the States or like North America.
Yeah. And the interesting thing with Rude is like they have worked with a tremendous number of bands that we all know and love, but their watermark on things, I guess, is not what it is for US labels, right? So when we initially heard from them, we really just wanted to talk to them and get to kind of feel out what it is that they wanted, and we found that we had a lot of views in common as far as like how you produce music, what the purpose of producing music is, how you should fund that and handle those funds and move forward with things, and thus far it's been a pretty good journey. Like I genuinely think that they were a good fit for us, but the process of making the record was I don't know, you guys tell me, but like it was different, but it wasn't like terribly different from how we've done it in the past. Like,
it was nice that we could focus and take our time on literally every song, so we're not booked on, say we went to another studio, we only have X amount of time because that's what we paid for. Right. So it was nice that we could dial back in, and then everyone can come in on a different day refreshed and not their ears bleeding from listening to the same damn note every day.
While we still work our day jobs.
Yeah, exactly. So it was nice to have
take care of ourselves.
A foundation, also like look at it as more or less of like a play project that we could really just dive deep into, and something that like someone else is over your shoulder looking down on you like every fucking day.
Yeah, you didn't have to deal with the pressure of time limits.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was
It was both a COVID thing, and it was also like the fact that like we did our entire record in house with our own team that had gotten well acquainted with the studio that we have there. We had basically just made a wish list of the gear that we wanted to use for the record, and we managed to acquire it, and we put it together. And it's the second record that we've done there, and we've been really happy with both of them. The hardest part of it is it's a different sonic aesthetic from the stuff that we did prior, which definitely leaves, I don't know, I guess a learning curve for either like legacy audience members to sort of understand where it is we're moving with that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That was my next question, is around how the music of A Will Away has evolved as time has gone on. If somebody said to the high school kids, I'm guessing at the time, that started A Will Away, like, oh yeah, by the way, like 10, 11 years later, you're still going to be doing this. Like, would you have believed them? And so I'm wondering about how things have changed from the beginning until now.
To answer your question, would I have believed them? Absolutely, because my 17-year-old self absolutely thought that we had something really great, and I thought it was going to be like just a drift easy path, you know what I mean? So like, if somebody was like, yeah, you're going to be doing this 10 years from now, I'd been like, yeah.
And then your van breaks down in Iowa or something, and
like
you're stuck there for like 4 days.
times, man.
every fucking tour, there'd be one goddamn time.
It takes it out of you, and I think what's really funny is you ask what's changed. What's changed is us. I mean, we've gotten older. We've experienced a tremendous amount of good and a tremendous amount of bad in ways that it totally influences your worldview. And like, we are not the same people that we were when we started this band. Period. We are a lot more protective of ourselves and a lot more protective of our own well-being at this point, especially after the pandemic, than we used to be. So we're not willing to take unnecessary risks, because like, if our option is to keep doing it for as long as we can do it, we got to make sure that like we're going to be alive to keep doing it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And not only are we going to be alive, but we're going to be happy, and we're going to be healthy, and we're going to be able to do it to the best of our ability. Which, when you do what we did, which is, tour DIY for 300 days a year for 5 years, and then tour on labels for several hundred days a year for another 5 years, and, you're making all of the progress in the world, but you're not quite where you need to be to make sure that your whole life is covered. You have to, at a certain point, make a decision. And for us, sonically, it was also a journey of sort of becoming true to ourselves, in the same way that we're kind of talking about with the process of it. It's always about taking care of us at this point. We want to make sure that the audience is happy, but like, we're playing now in a way that is not to please other people's audiences. We're playing now in a way that is to please both ourselves and our existing audience.
Absolutely. And I think bands get to that point as the years go on, and as you mature as people, and as you see the good things, but also like we've been talking about, the not so good things that come with touring. And
yeah, there's a lot of it, man. And it gives you PTSD. Like, I'm sorry, like, most of your favorite bands have terrible post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah. Well, and I'm always interested in that, right? Because it's very easy for people to like, oh, this band's coming to play, I'm going to buy a ticket, I'm going to show up at doors, might buy a shirt, have a few drinks, it's a good night, I go home, and that's it. Yeah. But it's your lives.
Yeah, it is our lives. Look, the volatility of the industry itself is already not super healthy for people. It is a difficult industry to be a part of, and I don't think any individual is at fault for that. It's kind of the nature of the beast, right? But yeah, absolutely. Like, the logistics that go into touring, the things that you have to do in the weeks leading up, the things that you have to do in the months leading up, the personal risk that's associated with that is I think a lot higher than people necessarily appreciate. And I think that you have so many bands out there, especially these days with like social media and everything, who are so hungry that like, if you don't want to do the show, somebody's going to do it cheaper. And there's
absolutely,
you're always kind of fighting this constant battle of like, is it worth it as a positive opportunity? Is it worth the risk? And I think that like, we've become a little bit more risk averse over time, just simply because like, yeah, you're out there on the highway, like statistically you spend enough time on the road, You're gonna see people get in horrifying car accidents. You're going to experience car accidents. You're gonna be in horribly dangerous situations. You're gonna be on long tour drives that are 13, 15 hours overnight, and like somebody's gonna fall asleep at the wheel. These are not weird problems. Like,
Somebody's
they're very common.
Somebody's gonna cut the lock of your trailer and all your stuff gets stolen, and
you're going to get robbed. If you do it for long enough, you're going to get robbed. It's happened to us. Like,
we don't do trailers.
that's why we don't do trailers. It makes it a lot less likely that you're going to get robbed, but we still got robbed after enough time. I think that at a certain point, you have two ways of looking at it, and it's like, either what we do gives you this beautiful, happy, positive view of the world, or it makes you very sour and bitter and stiff. And I think that like the breaks that we have taken are mostly because there is only so much that a person could take and how much you can sustain for that amount of time.
absolutely. Not to mention the like the strain on like family and personal relationships, right? It's like, we're going on a like 6-week tour. See you, family and friends. Yep. And I'm interested in how family and friends are supportive, or if they're not. I always feel bad for friends of mine who are musicians because, especially around the holidays, because
That's always rough.
right, because I mean, I'm not a musician myself, but I can just kind of envision, like, you got like the uncle that you see like once a year maybe, who's like still doing that music thing, and like just no concept of what your life is.
Well, and dude, that's actually a huge portion of, I think, what gets to you, especially when you do what we did, which is, again, just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of days on the road for a really long time. Like, you lose the ability to relate to the people around you at a certain point, and they lose the ability to relate to you. And that's not because there's some absolute gigantic disconnect, but it's like, at a certain point when you're touring that much, you condition yourself to existing on tour. You condition yourself to always having to show up with a smile on your face and be your best self, regardless of how miserable or hungover you are. And the only reason that like you're continuing to pursue it is because the positivity that you get when you have a great show is worth it.
That was my next question, is given the challenges, once you realize that, okay, like this thing is getting bigger than we had anticipated, and, all the challenges that come with that we've talked about, I'm going to guess that it comes too with a lot of things that bring you joy, or you wouldn't be doing it. Like, the question is, what keeps you on the road? What keeps you committed to the music of A Will Away?
The support we get from a lot of people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, I think that's probably, like, I can only speak for myself here, but, like, it is a combination of the amazing support that we get from people, not only our team, but also the fans. And the other thing is the love of the game at a certain point, you know what I mean? Like, there is something to that where, like, you enjoy the pursuit and you enjoy the success, and you feel the failure, But that's my take.
I mean, last night was a great example of why we want to keep doing it, It was fucking great.
Yeah.
Sound was great. We played great. Our new guitarist played fucking great. He stepped up.
We had a great crowd. Last night, one of the most shocking things that I felt from last night, we played in Connecticut. We did a sold-out show, I would say like 45 minutes away from home. And when we asked the crowd, raise your hand if this is the first time you're seeing us, well over 60% of the crowd, it was the first time they were seeing us.
Wow.
That's a shock.
Absolutely.
And you can feel that, like, obviously when you're playing, like, you can feel whether or not the crowd is reciprocating.
100%.
And they were, but they were doing so tentatively, and that was kind of like, it gave me the sense of like, oh, these are new people.
And you were right.
Yeah, and they were, and that's incredibly encouraging, because it means that, like, if we're moving forward on as much of a fresh page as I think we could hope for.
That must be wild, like the concept that, you're just kind of going about your day, living your life, and there are people that listen to your record, like, daily.
Yes, it's vomit-inducing. I don't think it's like we're not the type of people who like to put ourselves out there so much on like social media. We're really not out here for like the praise or anything. So much of why we do it is because we really genuinely enjoy doing it. And we find that we attract people who seem to be understanding of that. We attract audience members who seem to be understanding of that. So I find that really interesting, but it's super weird because, yeah, when you are cognizantly aware, which we have been terribly so over the course of releasing the record, of who's listening, where they're listening from, what's their age demographic, like who should I be looking out for in the show, how do we structure the things that we're doing to better cater to these people, like those things are kind of removed from us at a certain point, you know? And like to discuss it as something that's bigger than yourself, I think is probably the right way to do it, because it's like, this thing has legs and it's moving whether we're doing it or not, so we may as well jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah, and there's a kid who's going to be like, come to Brazil or whatever, right?
Literally come to Brazil, yeah.
Which is just so wild to me. But
and it's the most beautiful feeling in the entire world, but I would be lying to you if I said that, like, us as, like, I don't know, like, if anybody out there who, like, has gotten to know us, like, we're not the most extroverted people in the world, like, truly. We are homebodies who like to play music, and we enjoy each other's company, and we enjoy all of your company, and it's like the idea that there is something beyond that is head spinning at a certain point.
Absolutely. Well, it's a great thing that you guys are able to get back to it, get playing some shows, and as we said, you're here at No Passage Fest in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and yeah, so thanks for taking some time here with us at Spinning Thoughts. And what is next for A Will Away?
We have some extended touring plans in the works for the summer, spring period. This is us getting our feet wet, and we're going to be making some hard moves and hard decisions over the next couple of days about where we're going to be and when we're going to be there. But yeah, we're going out. Things are going to be good. We're going to be playing live, and God willing, we're going to be writing it again at the end of the year.
I was just gonna say, it's only a matter of time before we got some new shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Just keep moving up, you know?
Awesome. So we'll look for some tour announcements for the summertime. And just before we wrap up, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Beyond that, thank you for listening. Thank you all, you included, for continuing to enable us to do the things that we love to do. And please listen to Stu. It's a really fun record, and we're really proud of it.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Once again, I want to thank A Will Away for being here for episode 228 of Spinning Thoughts. Go and listen to their new album, Stu. It's out everywhere now via Rude Records. While you're at it, make sure you follow us on all social media at Spin Thoughts. Give this video a like, leave a comment down below, and if you're not subscribed yet, what are you doing? Go ahead, hit the subscribe button here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Doing those little things, likes, comments, subscribes, it helps what we do so much to just push it out into the world. The algorithm picks it up, and more music lovers like you and me can join together and support our favorite bands and music. So check out the website, thespinningthoughts.com, and we have premiere episodes every Thursday at midnight Eastern on IW Radio. We'll be back again, same time, same place next week. Until then, make sure you share music, spread love.
You think you